Hey, your dog wants to be a corpse for Halloween this year.
Greetings. Autumn is just about upon us.
And as always, there is a lot to cover. It's honestly astonishing, however, that the masses continue to cling to the dog delusion. It's unbelievable how tightly they cling to the lie that dogs are good and anything other than a net negative, even with all the mounting evidence against their presence in society. Frankly, any one of us in this space could have produced a single video which should have convinced everyone who saw it, even if it was a severely compromised dog fanatic, that this can no longer be justified. And by this I mean dog ownership in general. We have arrived at a point where none of it can be defended, not even nonsense about working dogs or whatever, and many of us reject the whole thing outright at this point.
Summer is ending. Halloween is fast approaching. But on these streets, every day brings horror, even in the most mundane moments. For millions across the planet, there is something quite ordinary, and very real, that haunts houses. It stalks, the most unsuspecting, right out in the open. We need not concoct tales of ghouls and ghosts. For there is a very real menace. Its wicked reign is not restricted to nights with a full moon, like the werewolf. It is not bound by the harsh light of day, like the vampire. Neither spectral in origin, nor otherworldly, the beast I speak of, is ever present, and it seems to have hijacked humanity. There is no particular time or place, where one needs to be cognizant of its looming presence, for it is everywhere. With billions of willing hosts, and a powerful agitprop apparatus behind it, its reach far exceeds that of the run-of-the-mill shapeshifter, the lethargic zombie, or even the common cold. Yet, it proliferates as a virus, flesh-eater, and deceiver of man. I speak of course, of the common dog. That child killer, that man-eater, that parasitic pest, that has found its paradise, on Earth.
Dog worshippers don't seem to realize that they are basically in a cult, yet they are so lacking in self-awareness that they claim we are in a cult, and not just any cult.
The cult needs to be eradicated.
There is a lot to cover today. As I said earlier, I would like to start with this. It's a short video titled, "If you find this, call the police immediately." There are several videos with a very similar title, but this is a more recent one, and it specifically focuses on a slideshow, which the uploader says was sent via Instagram DM, which shows different food items with sharp objects, such as screws or fish hooks inside of them. Now here is what that person claims.
The entire goal behind these food items with sharp objects inside of them is to get a dog that you don't like to consume it.
I don't know why he phrased it that way, but it's either the product of a great deal of dishonesty or total naivety. By saying that the goal is to get a dog that one simply doesn't like to eat them, it seems he wishes to make it sound as if people are doing this for no good reason beyond a personal dislike. Of course, he doesn't go into why people don't like these dogs, although I'm sure he probably knows full well. But, to be clear, it's not just that people don't like them. Here's what's actually happening. Dogs are basically worshipped at this point, and people in general are expected to suffer through their many constant trespasses. These include incessant barking, as well as the way these foul beasts terrorize the general public. As someone else said,
dogs basically make life hell for people around them, and so their victims will inevitably resort to more covert means of solving the problem.
And yes, it is those who continue to propagate and defend the continued existence of dogs who are wholly responsible for these outcomes. That's the long and the short of it, and I will plainly state that I am not suggesting that anyone do something like this. In general, such issues can certainly be discussed in a descriptive way, without prescriptive judgments. To clarify, descriptive statements or approaches focus on how things are, and basically describe reality, while prescriptive ones focus on how things should be. Myself, I make no statement about how people, at the individual level, should deal with the very real dog problem that exists, other than perhaps in the case of self-defense. And it should go without saying, that I definitely think people should be able to defend themselves from dogs. For me, the issue isn't the fact that this thing with the hooks and such inside food, presumably put out for dogs to eat, is happening. The issue is that almost no one asks why this happens. On the other hand, it's pretty clear by some of the comments that people do in fact know exactly why things like this would occur, or at least part of the reason. Or in other words, they know people do this because dogs are a major nuisance and also a menace. However, it seems many of them aren't aware that it's also because people usually have no recourse. In other words, there is no source of help, protection, or legal claim to resolve the problem. I have seen many comments on that video, like this one.
I despise barking, but it's shocking that people are genuinely trying to justify murdering dogs.
So, for starters, murder is not the right word. The term murder does not apply to non-human animals. I don't know when people started using language so haphazardly, but dictionaries and legal systems define it as the unlawful killing of a human being. And last I checked, a dog is not a human being. Murder requires a human victim, and the legal concept of a person in the human sense. Further, I don't even know what they're talking about, given that the overwhelming majority of comments on this page are nonsense like this. Or horrible like this comment here. In this one, some dog nutter seems to be operating under the delusion that a dog owner would be somehow justified to do the same thing to a person who did this. You know, putting nails or whatnot in some food that only a dog would be dumb enough to eat. And in no world is this justifiable. It certainly isn't legally justified. And it is also one of the most immoral things I can conceive of. I've said this before a few times, and I will say it once more. Even joking about wanting to actually kill a person because of something they did to a dog, no matter the context, is beyond twisted. And let's remember that in the vast majority of cases, dogs only get hurt by people because dogs tend to attack and intrude. If dogs could only keep to themselves, well, things like this would not happen. Keep in mind also that many dog nutters are disturbed and deranged enough to wish the cruelest fate imaginable on a person for defending themselves against a brutal, unprovoked dog attack, meaning when they are in the right, legally, and as a biological organism, with the instinct to survive and a desire not to be harmed by a fanged predator. I should also add that there is an entire discussion that could be had regarding the ethics of pest control, but that is essentially what this is, in the aforementioned video. As we know, there are many hypocrisies and inconsistencies in the dog world, seeing as how many of these dog people fancy themselves animal lovers, and the like. For example, we don't see them protesting when animals deemed invasive are culled in large numbers. We don't see an uproar because homeowners and property management can poison certain wild rabbits, like the cottontail rabbit for instance, simply because they eat the grass on the lawn. Most dog nutters are certainly not vegan, nor are they opposed to pest control in general, or they might well be doing things like trying to get Terminix shut down. And of course they ignore where pet food comes from. That's a whole discussion in and of itself, and in the past I have gone into that at some length. This is also covered extensively in the 1978 book, The Dog Crisis, which has been referenced previously. And then there is stuff like this. Here's a typical dog defender, jumping at the first chance to throw other animals under the bus, all while changing the topic and offering no solution to the dog problem, or any other problem for that matter. They just state something which may or may not be true, and which is never relevant, and then they just move on. In this case, the dog nut ideologue falsely equates dogs with bees and tries to play a silly little numbers game. Thankfully, Ashar had a great response for this one.
Bees, mosquitoes, bison, buffalo, and snakes all play a part in nature and are not found in most living rooms across America as pets. In the USA, dogs kill one person approximately every 9 days. They injure, maim, maul, and disfigure many, many more. What do animal facts cite as the number of plastic surgeries performed per year due to bees? According to your logic, you should be banned for the number of brain cells killed when people read your comments.
Got him! Got him!
It should also be noted that bees are naturally occurring and pretty much impossible to ban. More importantly, perhaps, if all the bees were gone, we would be in serious trouble. However, if all the dogs disappeared, the planet would not suffer for it. On the contrary, it would only improve.
It's a cruel summer.
All the leaves are brown.
And of course, there's always nonsense like this.
I just checked out Cute Pets TV. They don't even make videos. They only make compilations, and like 95% of the clips have parent supervision. You could have picked a better example. Fake drama.
And this.
They've been protecting human children for thousands of years, and our ancestors trusted wolves to protect our children. Which would you rather? The entire purpose of a dog's existence
is to serve man.
These are but two examples of the many standard stock responses we get all the time. We can call these SSRs, standard stock responses. They are nothing but repetitive and meaningless garbage, and they should have disappeared from the web a long time ago. Just like,
oh wait, now that's a bad lie. He no longer existed.
I showed this comment on screen earlier, and yes, we are going to address it. Look at what this nutter actually typed out as a public comment. Recall the previously referenced video about what is essentially a DIY pest control method for non-human vermin, albeit it is illegal. Well, this lunatic actually said that they would do the same thing to someone's children, as if dogs and children were at all the same thing, or even remotely comparable. Seldom does one actually hear children screaming, and humans aren't the aggressive, out-of-place pests that dogs are, not generally anyway. Funnily enough, dog owners are among the worst humanity has to offer. So, there are always exceptions like that, I suppose. In the case of dog owners, they deliberately introduce dangerous and disruptive beasts into human communities. But you do not see so-called dog haters running around saying that they want to do horrible things to the children of dog nutters. And yes, there are many of these nutters who are parents as well as dog owners. This comment is insane on so many levels, it's hard to know where to even begin. I'm just going to leave it up for effect for a few more seconds. Yes, a dog nutter actually typed that out, thought it was an acceptable thing to believe, and then submitted their comment on a publicly visible forum. And now for a word from Barkbusters.
I decided to title this Reflection of Madness. The only way I can describe dog ownership is madness. It's not really about love for animals, it's about trauma, hostility, and the need to attack others. That's the truth, plain and simple. This obsession with dogs has become permanent and unshakable. And sadly, it isn't going anywhere. For context, this is Barkbusters. I gave up my channel because I was constantly under attack, mocked, bullied, and insulted for everything from the way I spoke to the sound of my voice. I never showed my face for safety reasons, but the hostility was so extreme that I honestly worried people might track me down. The real problem isn't the dogs themselves, but the way people elevate them. The obsession is disturbing, even dehumanizing. And when I see stuff like the AI slop videos on Facebook or YouTube, where someone runs an actual dog through filters and it turns into like a grotesque, monstrous mess, and then I watch people gush over the filtered dog in the video, and it turns out really disturbing. I can't help but think this is what dogs actually are, pretty much, and what it's like to, quote-unquote, love all over them. They're hideous, distorted, and disgusting. And here's the deeper point. People who are obsessed with dogs often have underlying issues, sometimes even signs of psychopathy. They usually can't stand people, and when they call themselves animal lovers, that's a lie. They're not animal lovers, they're dog obsessed, plain and simple. This was made so clear by a Facebook post that I saw not too long ago. It asked, if you had to do away with all but 3, which would you choose? And the list included things like makeup, music, cats, and dogs, a bunch of other things. Out of a lengthy list, nearly 50% of the commenters put dogs as one of the 3 items on their personal list. And only about 10%, probably less, chose cats. That says a lot, and that says pretty much everything. These people aren't lovers of all animals. They're dog obsessed, dog crazy, and it really shows.
This kind of content is uploaded by dog fanatics themselves. They put themselves out there. It's not as if these videos are being concealed. In this next clip, we'll see just how reckless, gross, and utterly clueless a dog person can be. I have no idea why people do things like this in the first place, whether they film it or not. This nasty nutter keeps kissing this hideous beast over and over again until she finally gets bit.
Ah! Oh my goodness.
What?
He just bit me.
What?
He just bit me.
Is he trying to pick me up? He's trying to pick me up. Hey, my loves, I'm gonna give
Stupid dog's pointless name.
a full body massage. He needs it. So I just gave him his ball to kind of like distract him. And we're gonna go ahead and get started with his neck. How's that precious? How's that precious, Simba? Relax, relax. It's okay. We're gonna go up, down. I was giving you a massage. Excuse me, guys. I think when he's growling, that means he likes it. So I'm gonna go ahead and continue down his back.
I think your dog wants to be a corpse for Halloween this year.
The worms crawl in, the worms crawl out, the worms lay pinnacle on your snout.
Now I know what you're thinking. It's not that close to Halloween, but before you know it, it will be Christmas again. Time's inexorable march knows no bounds. There are only so many days before there can't be any more. That is part of the reason why I've continued to do this activism. What I mean is that dogs, and dog culture in general, make life more unpleasant than it has to be.
You make life worse. It just doesn't work.
For many, more unpleasant than it already is. This is a public health and safety issue after all. But dogs really are the closest thing we have to real-life monsters. And no, I don't think they're literally demons, or somehow possessed, or controlled by supernatural entities. Even if this were actually happening, there would be no way to prove this was the case, and what dogs actually are is genetic monsters. They are descended, and have been bred from, wild predatory canines. Whatever the dog's progenitor was, these so-called domesticated creatures are clearly a total bastardization of that. All the unnatural breeding they've been subject to seems to have really done a number on these mutants. Bottom line, dogs are not good. They are the opposite of that. Their presence is very harmful, yet people continue to promote and defend it. It makes absolutely no sense to me. It will never make sense. Those who continue to perpetuate this extreme culture of violence, antipathy, codependence, pollution, misanthropy, moral nihilism, and total disregard for social responsibility, they would have others believe dog culture critics are the ones with the problem. We are merely responding to the presence of one, and all who perpetuate and support dog culture are the ones creating it.
I don't wanna see a dog on Halloween. I don't wanna hear a dog on Christmas Eve. I don't wanna smell a dog on New Year's Eve. Dog waste in snow and under autumn leaves.
There's a lot more that could be said on this topic, and a lot that has already been said. Unfortunately, most of it tends to fall on deaf ears, and this can be a very strange space in some ways, despite the unassailable logic behind the overall message, on which we're all of one mind. Dogs have no place in human settlements, and the proof of their numerous drawbacks multiplies by the day. No one should have to run an anti-dog channel, because dogs should not exist. I don't know why it's so controversial to say that dogs should no longer exist, but it would make life so much better in so many ways.
If dogs didn't exist.
It really is, as one commenter wrote on a previous video.
Just one of these cases should be enough for people to see the problem for what it really is. It dumbfounds me how they can watch these tragic, heart-wrenching news stories, see pictures of the victims, listen to the devastated family members, and still pretend this is not a major problem. So much denial and apathy going on.